Welcome to 80 Sleeps Around the World, a place where you can slow down, close your eyes, and let your mind wander. Here we take gentle journeys across landscapes, cities, and stories from every corner of the globe. So relax, get comfortable, and drift with us as we travel the world together, one sleepy step at a time. The last colors of daylight fade across the skyline as you leave the restless energy of Manhattan's avenues and approach Columbus Circle, the southwestern gateway to Central Park. Yellow cabs and buses sweep around the circle, their headlights blurring into ribbons of light. But already, just beyond the traffic, you sense the promise of calm. Central Park stretches ahead, an expanse of nearly 843 acres, a rectangle carved into the very fabric of New York in the mid-19th century. It was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux, the first landscape public park in the United States, created as a place of refuge for every citizen, no matter their class or background. Crossing the wide street, you step beneath the first arching trees. These are American elms, among the largest surviving stands of their kind anywhere in the world. Their branches form a canopy overhead, a natural cathedral that has shaded generations of walkers. Lamps blink on in the twilight, spilling golden circles across the path. The hum of traffic fades, replaced by the softer sounds of evening, the rhythmic click of a cyclist's gears, the shuffle of joggers, the quiet laughter of a family making their way home. The air carries the earthy perfume of soil and grass, and if you pause, you notice a subtle sweetness, perhaps the lingering bloom of honeysuckle. A street musician adjusts his saxophone nearby and begins to play. His notes float upward, lingering in the branches. Central Park has long been a stage for musicians, from the great open-air concerts at the Great Lawn to solitary performers filling tunnels and terraces with echoes. This saxophone joins the long history of sound in the park, blending city and nature into one. You walk on, and the skyline of Manhattan glimmers beyond the trees. At the time of the park's creation in 1857, these towers did not exist. The land here was once rocky and swampy, home to a small community known as Seneca Village. It was largely made up of African-American landowners, along with Irish and German immigrants. Their homes, gardens, and churches stood here until the city used eminent domain to clear the land for the park. Though the village vanished, historians continue to recover its memory, reminding us that even this place of beauty carries stories of displacement alongside its promise of rest. Ahead, the path curves toward a low stone bridge, its surface smoothed by more than a century of footsteps. Olmsted and Vaux built dozens of such bridges throughout the park, cast iron, wood, stone, each designed so that carriage roads, footpaths, and bridle paths could weave without ever crossing at the same level. It was part of their vision, a democratic park where people of every background could share the same landscape yet move through it in peace. Tonight, the bridge glows under lamplight, its arches casting soft shadows. Below, cyclists pass like fireflies, their lights flickering in the dark. The night deepens. Above the treetops, the moon rises silver and steady, and the first stars prick the sky. In the hush, you hear a carriage horse clip-clopping along a nearby road, a sound that has echoed here for over a century. In 1858, only a year after construction began, the first sections of the park opened, and New Yorkers immediately filled it with carriages. For decades, a ride through Central Park was a social ritual, and though most traffic now belongs to bicycles and strollers, the sound of hooves still lingers as a reminder of that earlier age. You move farther along the path, passing benches where solitary readers linger with books in their laps. The lamps shed a honeyed glow, their light catching in the leaves overhead. The city feels far away now, though just beyond the walls of trees, Broadway thrums with energy. This separation was intentional. Olmsted believed a park should be an escape, and he shaped Central Park as a kind of illusion. Once inside, the city falls away. No advertisements intrude, no shop windows, no billboards, only meadows, woods, and winding paths that seem to stretch into endless countryside. You slow your pace and breathe deeply. The scent of chestnuts roasting drifts from a vendor near the southern entrance, mingling with the earthy fragrance of damp grass. A breeze stirs the branches overhead. In its whisper, you can almost hear the layers of history, The workers who dug these paths by hand, the thousands of trees planted to create these woods, the countless visitors who have walked here at dusk, seeking a breath of quiet in the middle of America's busiest city. The bridge behind you fades into shadow. Ahead, the lamps guide you forward, each pool of light like a stepping stone into the night. The saxophone plays its final note, then falls silent. What remains is the hush of leaves, the quiet pulse of your own footsteps, and the awareness that you are walking not just through a park, but through a living history. One that continues to breathe and change with every passing evening. The path narrows and then widens again, carrying you toward the heart of Central Park's Grand Promenade, the Mall. Beneath the towering canopy of American elms, the world seems to stretch into a soft green cathedral. These elms are remarkable. Nearly 400 of them line this quarter-mile walkway, forming one of the largest surviving stands of their species anywhere. In the early 20th century, Dutch elm disease devastated populations across the United States and Europe. But careful stewardship here, regular pruning, vigilant care, and a little good fortune has allowed these trees to flourish for more than a century. Their interlacing branches create a living tunnel overhead, and tonight the leaves rustle like a distant ocean as the night breeze moves gently through. You slow your pace, letting the rhythm of the place guide you. This wide promenade was part of Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux's original plan in the 1850s. They envisioned a democratic gathering space, a grand walk where people of every background could stroll side by side. In the Gilded Age, fashionable New Yorkers paraded here in their finest clothes, while immigrant families, workers, and visitors from every corner of the city mingled freely. Newspapers of the era nicknamed it the Promenade of the People, a living experiment in the social ideals of a young America. Tonight it is quieter, the hour late enough that only a few silhouettes move beneath the lamps. A lone skater glides past, wheels humming softly on the pavement. Farther ahead, a violinist leans against a bench, coaxing a melody from strings that glow under the amber light. The notes drift upward and blend with the sigh of the trees, a reminder that music has always belonged here. Mark Twain once walked these same paths. Charles Dickens visited in 1868 and praised the park's perfect grace and beauty. Their footsteps, like yours, are part of the endless flow of visitors who have found solace in this long arcade of elms. Along the edges of the mall, bronze figures stand watch. Literary Walk, as this southern end is known, honors poets and writers who shaped the English language. You pass Shakespeare first, his cloak drawn around him, the statue unveiled in 1872 after a fundraising campaign by the city's Shakespeare Society. Nearby stands Sir Walter Scott, the great Scottish novelist, Robert Burns, Scotland's beloved poet, and the American Fitz Green Halleck, a name less familiar today but a literary star in the 19th century. Their faces catch the lamplight, their bronze features softened by time and by the park's nightly mist. Each figure speaks of an era when literature was a public passion, when people gathered here to celebrate words and ideas as part of the city's shared life. The mall slopes gently downward, leading you toward the park's architectural heart, Bethesda Terrace. The sound of water reaches you before the view appears, a quiet rush, like rain on distant leaves. Then the trees open and you stand atop a grand double staircase of sandstone, its balustrades carved with motifs of flora and fauna. This terrace was conceived as the heart of the park, a meeting place where music, water, and stone would combine in harmony. Construction began in the 1860s, and the work stretched over 2 decades. Tonight, the steps glow under wrought iron lamps, their warm light picking out every carved detail: lily pads, birds, the curling leaves of native plants. The carvings were designed by Jacob Ray Mould, an English architect and gifted decorative artist who worked closely with Olmsted and Vaux. He insisted on motifs drawn from American nature, a quiet nod to the uniqueness of this landscape in the center of a modern city. You descend slowly, hand-trailing along cool sandstone, and arrive at the lower level. Ahead rises the Bethesda Fountain, one of New York's most beloved landmarks. At its center stands the Angel of the Waters, a neoclassical figure with outstretched wings. Sculptor Emma Stebbins unveiled it in 1873, making her the first woman to receive a major public art commission in New York City. Her angel commemorates the opening of the Croton Aqueduct in 1842, which brought fresh water to a city often threatened by disease. The lily she holds symbolizes purity, and the smaller cherubs at her feet represent health, purity, peace, and temperance. Tonight, moonlight bathes the statue, the fountain's water catching both the silver of the moon and the warm gold of the terrace lamps. Droplets fall in a steady rhythm, a soft percussion against the night. Beneath the terrace stretches the famous arcade, its ceiling tiled with brilliant Minton encaustic tiles, over 15,000 individual pieces imported from England in the 1860s. Each tile is handcrafted, colored with natural clays rather than paint, and fired so the patterns run deep through the surface. The result is a ceiling that glimmers even in low light, an unexpected burst of color and pattern hidden below the stone steps. The arcade was long considered one of the finest examples of decorative arts in the city, and its restoration in the 1980s returned every tile to place. You walk through now, your footsteps echoing in gentle rhythm, the cool air scented with damp stone and the faint trace of water from the fountain beyond. A busker's voice rises in song, the sound resonant in the arcade's natural acoustics. Musicians cherish this spot. The tiled ceiling amplifies sound so perfectly that even a quiet melody can carry like a symphony. During the day, crowds often gather to listen, but at this hour, only a handful of late wanderers linger in the shadows, their faces lifted toward the music. You pause with them, letting the notes fill the space until they fade into silence. Beyond the terrace lies the lake, a 42-acre body of water that Olmsted and Vaux designed to appear completely natural, though it was carefully sculpted from the park's original rocky terrain. In winter, it becomes a skating rink. In warmer months, rowboats glide across its mirrored surface. Tonight it lies still, reflecting the moon and the faint outlines of trees. Bow Bridge, its graceful cast-iron curve visible in the distance, waits for your next steps. Standing here, you remember that the creation of Central Park was itself an audacious act. In the 1850s, New York's population was surging, and the city's leaders feared that without open space, the urban crush would become unbearable. More than 18,000 workers, many of them Irish and German immigrants, shaped this landscape by hand. They blasted rock, hauled away topsoil, planted 500,000 trees and shrubs, and built 36 bridges and arches. It was, in its time, the largest public works project in the nation, costing over $14 million, a vast sum for the era. Every path, every meadow, every body of water was carved and planted with intention, designed to look effortless and eternal. Now, more than a century and a half later, you can feel the success of that vision in the hush of this night. The terrace stones beneath your feet are worn smooth by generations of visitors, yet they still hold the cool of evening. The fountain continues its endless song. Overhead, the elms of the mall stand watch, guardians of a space that belongs to everyone, residents and travelers, artists and dreamers, those seeking a quiet stroll or simply a breath of fresh air. You linger for a moment longer, breathing in the mingled scents of stone and water, of leaves and distant city air. Then you turn toward Bow Bridge, where the moonlit path will carry you deeper into the park's mysteries, toward woods and waters that wait in tranquil silence for the patient traveler. You leave the soft music of Bethesda Terrace behind and follow a narrow path that bends toward shadow. The lamps thin out, their pools of gold giving way to deeper darkness, and soon you enter one of the park's most mysterious landscapes, the Ramble. Frederick Law Olmsted called this 36-acre section a wild garden, and it remains true to that vision more than 160 years later. Winding trails twist through dense thickets of oak, hickory, and maple. Rocks rise suddenly like forgotten ruins, their surfaces silvered by moonlight. Even in daylight, the Ramble can feel like untamed countryside. At night, it becomes something older and more secret, a pocket of wilderness at the heart of Manhattan. The air grows cooler beneath the heavy foliage. Leaves whisper overhead, and the faint scent of damp earth mixes with the resin of pine. Somewhere nearby, water moves over stone, one of the small streams that feed the lake. You slow your steps to listen. A barred owl gives a low call, a sound that has echoed here for generations. More than 230 species of birds have been recorded in this section alone, making the Ramble one of the most celebrated birdwatching spots in North America. In spring and fall, when migration is at its peak, experts and novices alike gather with the binoculars from dawn until dusk. Tonight, the birds are mostly hidden, but you can feel their presence in the rustling branches and sudden flutters above. The path curves beneath a rustic arch of black locust logs. Bridges like this were built deliberately rough, meant to appear as though they'd grown from the forest itself. The original park designers believed that every turn should reveal a fresh scene, and the Ramble delivers on that promise. A hidden grotto here, a quiet glade there, each bend a gentle surprise. Beneath your feet, the trail is uneven, layered with packed earth and bits of granite that workers hauled here by hand in the 1850s. More than 18,000 laborers shaped the entire park, blasting rock, planting 500,000 trees and shrubs, and digging waterways, all without the machinery we take for granted today. You cross a small stone bridge where the moonlight catches the rippled surface of the stream. Nearby stands the Gill, a narrow man-made brook designed to appear completely natural. Its name comes from an Old English word for sparkling water, and in the quiet of night it lives up to the promise, trickling over moss-clad rocks in a silver thread of sound. The designers hid pipes and valves beneath the soil so that the flow would seem eternal, as if the brook had always been here. Gradually the woods open and the path rises toward one of Central Park's most graceful landmarks, Bow Bridge. Even in moonlight you can see the sweep of its cast iron arc, a perfect curve 87 feet long spanning the lake. Completed in 1862, it was the first cast iron bridge in the park and remains one of the most photographed. The name bow refers not to a ribbon, but to the elegant curve of an archer's bow, a shape that gives the bridge both strength and lightness. The original railings are adorned with intricate floral motifs, each one hand-cast, and tonight they gleam faintly, dew collecting on their surfaces. You step onto the wooden planks, their gentle creak echoing over the still water. Beneath you, the lake spreads in 42 acres of carefully sculpted shoreline that appears utterly natural. In the late 1800s, it was a center of winter life. When the water froze, thousands of New Yorkers skated here by lamplight, while brass bands played on shore. In summer, rowboats glide across its surface, just as they do today. Tonight, the only movement is the faint ripple of a night breeze and the mirrored shimmer of city lights in the distance. Pausing midway, you look back toward the trees of the Ramble. Their silhouettes rise like a dark continent against the lighter sky, hiding winding paths and secret coves. To the north, the twin towers of the San Remo apartment building stand like sentinels, their Art Deco crowns glowing faintly. To the south, the skyline of Midtown flickers with countless windows, a reminder that the restless city is never far away. Yet here on the bridge, with only water below and stars above, the city feels held at a distance, as if time itself has slowed. Bow Bridge has long been a place of stories. Countless couples have met, proposed, or simply paused here, drawn by the hush of water and the elegance of the ironwork. Film lovers may recall its cameo in movies from Manhattan to Spider-Man 3, each scene capturing the quiet romance that lingers after dark. The bridge's endurance is itself a testament to the care of generations. It was fully restored in 1974 and again in 2015, each time with painstaking attention to the original 19th century details. A faint splash draws your gaze downward, where a late-night angler reels in a line. Catch and release fishing is permitted here, part of the park's careful balance between recreation and conservation. The scent of the water drifts upward, cool and mineral. Somewhere far off, a saxophone begins to play again, the sound traveling across the lake like a ribbon of smoke. You linger a moment longer, letting the night settle around you, the gentle breeze against your face, the quiet creak of the bridge, the endless, patient shimmer of the lake. Then you step forward, ready to follow the path toward the conservatory water and the whimsical statues that wait in the next chapter of the park's moonlit story. Leaving Bow Bridge behind, you follow the gentle curve of the path as it winds eastward toward the quiet waters of the conservatory water. The night deepens and the city's sounds grow faint, softened by the embrace of trees that Olmsted and Vaux planted more than a century and a half ago. The lamps guide you forward, their light silvering the dew along the edges of the path. Somewhere to your right, a soft splash echoes across the lake as a late-night rowboat returns to shore. But soon even that fades, replaced by the subtle murmur of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves. The conservatory water appears suddenly through the branches, a smooth oval of moonlit glass about 3 acres across. It was designed in the 1870s as a formal reflecting pool, modeled after the grand ornamental ponds of European gardens. The name comes from an early plan to build a greenhouse, never realized, on its northern shore. Instead, the space became famous for a different pastime, model boat sailing. Beginning in the 1870s, children and adults alike set miniature schooners and sloops upon these waters, their sails catching the slightest breeze. Even today on weekends, hobbyists steer radio-controlled yachts across the pond in friendly races, a tradition that has endured for nearly 150 years. Tonight, the water is still, disturbed only by the occasional ripple of a night breeze. The lamps along the shore reflect in long golden streaks, and the moon hangs low enough to cast a silver path from one end of the pond to the other. Benches line the edge, and you pass a few late sitters, readers lost in books, a couple sharing quiet conversation, a solitary visitor watching the mirrored stars. Above them, the silhouettes of black cherry and American elm trees frame the night sky, their branches swaying with a slow, patient rhythm. On the north side of the water, a whimsical bronze figure emerges from the shadows, the Alice in Wonderland statue. Commissioned in 1959 by philanthropist George Delacourt as a gift to the children of New York, it depicts Alice seated on a giant mushroom, surrounded by her fantastical companions: the White Rabbit, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, and the Dormouse. Sculptor José de Kreeft used his own daughter as the model for Alice's face, giving the character a timeless gentleness. The statue was designed for climbing, and by day children scramble across its bronze surfaces, polishing them to a soft gleam. Tonight it rests in silence, moonlight highlighting the sweep of Alice's dress and the mischievous tilt of the Mad Hatter's hat. Nearby stands the Hans Christian Andersen statue, erected in 1956. The Danish author sits with an open book while a bronze duck listens at his feet, a nod to the ugly duckling. Storytelling sessions are still held here in summer, a tradition that began the very year the statue was unveiled. On warm mornings, volunteers read Andersen's fairy tales to eager audiences, continuing a practice that has charmed generations of families. You move along the water's edge, breathing in the mingled scents of damp grass and night-blooming flowers. The conservatory garden, a formal 6-acre retreat to the north, sends faint traces of lilac and rose into the air when the wind shifts. Though closed at night, its history lingers in the fragrance. A garden that first opened in 1937 on the site of an earlier glass conservatory. Inside, 3 distinct gardens, Italian, French, and English, offer different moods and plantings, a living tribute to horticultural art in the middle of Manhattan. As you continue, the quiet here feels almost enchanted. Central Park at night belongs to the patient observer. The soft croak of a hidden frog, the quick dart of a bat across the water's surface, the distant hoot of an owl returning to its roost. Naturalists note that the park supports more than 270 species of birds, countless insects, and small mammals from raccoons to the occasional red fox. These creatures follow ancient rhythms, largely unseen by the millions of daytime visitors. The path bends slightly uphill toward Fifth Avenue, and you glimpse through the trees the darkened silhouette of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. When it opened in 1880, the museum stood alone on what was then the park's eastern fringe. But tonight, its massive facade seems to float like a shadowed palace, silent and grand. Its galleries hold treasures from every age. Yet here outside, under the open sky, you sense another kind of museum, living exhibits of elm and oak, of water and stone, curated by time itself. Turning back toward the water, you pause to watch the moonlight shift as a breeze ripples the pond. The reflections break into 1,000 silver fragments and slowly reform. It is a reminder of what Olmsted called the tranquilizing influence of scenery, a deliberate goal of his design. He believed that natural landscapes could calm the mind and restore the spirit, and tonight his vision feels complete. You linger for a few breaths, savoring the gentle chorus of night insects and the faint perfume of damp earth. Then, with a final glance at Alice and her companions frozen in bronze play, you follow the curving path northward, where the shadows grow deeper and the next quiet wonder of Central Park awaits. The path curves northward, rising gently as you leave the quiet shimmer of the conservatory water behind. Lamps cast long ribbons of light across the gravel, and the breeze carries a faint, earthy fragrance, a mixture of damp stone and late summer leaves. Ahead, the trees begin to thin, revealing the silhouette of something unexpected. A castle poised on a rocky hill, its turrets catching the moonlight like a scene from an old European tale. This is Belvedere Castle, perhaps the park's most surprising landmark. Designed in 1865 by Calvert Vaux and Jacob Raymold, the miniature castle was never intended as a fortress, but as a folly, a purely decorative structure built for the joy of its view. Its name comes from the Italian for beautiful view, and the designers chose its site carefully, atop Vista Rock, the second highest natural elevation in the park. From here, visitors could look south toward the Ramble and the Great Lawn, and north toward the Harlem Meer, taking in nearly the entire sweep of Central Park. As you climb the stone steps that wind toward the castle, the air cools noticeably. The rock beneath your feet is Manhattan's schist, ancient bedrock more than 450 million years old, the same stone that anchors the skyscrapers of Midtown. Olmsted and Vaux left these outcrops exposed deliberately, believing that the island's natural geology was itself a wonder worth displaying. Reaching the upper terrace, you pause to take in the view. To the south, the lake glimmers in moonlight, its curves framed by the dark mass of the Ramble. To the north stretches the vast green of the Great Lawn, once a reservoir and now one of the city's most beloved gathering places. Beyond it, the city lights of Harlem and the Upper West Side shimmer like a distant constellation. Even at this late hour, you can sense the quiet pulse of millions of lives, the city that never sleeps, while you stand in a pocket of deep stillness. Belvedere Castle has served many roles over the years. In 1919, it became the official weather station for New York City, chosen for its unobstructed exposure to the sky. The small wooden pavilion you see beside the stone tower once housed instruments to record wind speed, humidity, and temperature. Even today, the National Weather Service uses data from this very spot to help forecast the city's ever-changing weather. Below the castle lies Turtle Pond, a 5-acre body of water named for its most famous residents. Created in the 1930s when the city drained the old Croton Reservoir and reshaped the land, the pond quickly became a thriving habitat. Red-eared sliders, painted turtles, and snapping turtles share the waters with fish, frogs, and migrating waterfowl. On warm days, visitors often spot turtles basking on rocks or floating lazily near the surface. Tonight, the pond reflects the moon like a sheet of dark glass, broken only by the occasional ripple of a late hunting heron. You descend a separate path that circles the pond, the smell of damp reeds rising as you approach the water's edge. In summer, this area hums with life, dragonflies darting above the lilies, warblers calling from the reeds. But at night, the sounds soften to a gentle chorus of crickets and the occasional plop of a frog returning to the shallows. You pause to listen, feeling the stillness settle around you. The Great Lawn spreads out beyond Turtle Pond, an 85-acre meadow that once held the massive Lower Reservoir, part of New York's 19th century water system. After the reservoir was drained in the 1930s, landscape architects transformed the site into broad playing fields and open greens, a project completed in 1937 during the administration of Parks Commissioner Robert Moses. Today, the Great Lawn hosts everything from casual softball games to free performances by the New York Philharmonic and the Metropolitan Opera, drawing crowds of tens of thousands on summer evenings. Tonight it rests beneath the stars, a silent sea of grass. Standing here, you are reminded of Central Park's enduring role as both a natural refuge and a civic stage. Every stone path, every glade, every body of water was shaped by human hands yet designed to feel timeless. Belvedere Castle, with its whimsical turrets and sweeping views, captures that vision perfectly. A structure built not for defense or display of wealth, but for the simple pleasure of seeing and being seen, of standing high above the city and feeling the vastness of both nature and human ambition. A light breeze stirs the treetops, carrying with it the cool scent of the pond and a hint of rain from distant clouds. You take one last look at the moonlit castle, its stone walls glowing silver against the dark sky, and continue along the path that will lead you westward toward the quiet expanse of the Great Lawn and the deeper shadows of the North Woods beyond. You step westward from the shadow of Belvedere Castle and find yourself on the broad edge of the Great Lawn, an open sweep of grass that seems to stretch forever under the moon. At 85 acres, it is the park's grandest meadow, a green ocean surrounded by trees whose leaves shimmer in the night breeze. Crickets sing from the edges, their steady chorus blending with the faint hum of traffic beyond the park walls. It is hard to imagine that this vast expanse was once a reservoir, Central Park's lower reservoir, constructed in the 1840s to supply drinking water to a rapidly growing New York City. By the 1930s, the reservoir was obsolete, and Parks Commissioner Robert Moses ordered it drained and transformed. Over 5 years, workers filled the basin with soil, planted thousands of trees, and created a landscape meant for play and performance. Today, the Great Lawn hosts everything from casual softball games to open-air concerts by the New York Philharmonic and the Metropolitan Opera, sometimes drawing crowds of 50,000 people or more. On those summer evenings, the meadow becomes a living amphitheater, but tonight it lies hushed beneath the stars, a giant emerald carpet cooled by dew. You cross the wide field slowly, shoes brushing against the damp grass. Overhead, the moon sails between drifting clouds, throwing silvery patches across the lawn. In the distance, you see the soft outlines of the park's tree line, sycamores, elms, oaks, planted with care to create the illusion of endless countryside. Frederick Law Olmsted believed that broad open meadows would offer city dwellers the sense of enlarged freedom, and the Great Lawn fulfills that promise even in darkness. Near the lawn's western edge stands the Delacorte Theater, home to the famed Shakespeare in the Park. Each summer since 1962, audiences have gathered here for free performances of the Bard's plays, a tradition that has brought world-class actors to a stage beneath the open sky. The theater is silent now, its seats empty, but the memory of countless performances lingers in the night air. You can almost hear the echo of applause, the cadence of iambic pentameter drifting like a ghost between the trees. As you continue north, the path narrows and the landscape changes. The manicured openness of the Great Lawn gives way to the wilder character of the North Woods. Here, the designers sought to recreate the feeling of an Adirondack forest within the heart of Manhattan. Slopes grow steeper, the undergrowth thicker. Black locusts and red oaks lean overhead, their branches weaving a dense canopy that filters the moonlight into scattered silver coins. The soundscape shifts too. The distant hum of traffic fades until it is only a soft vibration beneath your feet. In its place, you hear the rustle of leaves, the sudden crack of a twig as a raccoon moves through the brush, the quiet rush of water from the loch. This narrow stream, fed by a series of small waterfalls, was carefully engineered to appear natural, winding through rocky terrain toward the Harlem Meer. Olmsted and Vaux designed the watercourse with hidden pipes and valves so that its flow would remain steady even in the driest seasons. You pause at a rustic wooden bridge where the loch tumbles over a cascade of stone. The water glints like quicksilver in the lamplight, and the cool spray carries the clean scent of moss and granite. Naturalists have recorded more than 270 bird species in Central Park, and the North Woods is one of their favorite habitats. Great horned owls, red-tailed hawks, and migrating warblers all pass through these trees. Tonight you catch only a soft hoot in the distance and the rapid flutter of unseen wings. Moving deeper into the woods, you notice how carefully illusion and engineering blend here. Beneath your feet lies Manhattan's Chest, the ancient rock that underpins the island. But above it, every bend of the stream, every curve of the path was shaped by human design. Bridges of rough-hewn timber and boulders of gneiss were placed to look as though they had tumbled into place centuries ago. The effect is seamless. You feel as if you are far from any city, wandering a wilderness that existed long before skyscrapers rose along the Hudson. At a small clearing, you find a bench, its surface cool and slightly damp. From here, you can hear the full voice of the loch as it falls in a series of miniature waterfalls. The sound is steady, soothing, a natural lullaby. You breathe deeply, catching the scent of wet leaves and fresh water. This is one of the quietest places in Central Park, a sanctuary that even many longtime New Yorkers have never explored. Sitting for a moment, you reflect on the ambition behind this landscape. In the 1850s, the area that became the North Woods was a jumble of rocky hills and scrub. Transforming it required blasting through solid stone, hauling away thousands of tons of debris, and planting tens of thousands of trees and shrubs. Yet the result feels effortless, as if this woodland had always been here, waiting for night walkers and dreamers. The breeze stirs again, carrying the cool scent of water downstream. Somewhere beyond the trees lies the Harlem Meer, your next destination. But for now, you linger in the hush, letting the gentle music of the loch guide your breathing and the deep shadows of the North Woods wrap you in quiet. The path slopes gently downward as you leave the deep stillness of the North Woods. The sound of the loch accompanies you for a while, a silver thread of water rushing over stone until it softens to a faint murmur. Ahead, the trees begin to thin and a subtle brightness filters through, moonlight reflecting off a larger body of water. You have reached the Harlem Meer, a broad, mirror-like lake that anchors the northeast corner of Central Park. The name Meer, the Dutch word for lake, honors the early settlers who once farmed this northern edge of Manhattan. When Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux planned the park in the 1850s, they imagined this area as a pastoral retreat distinct from the grand promenades of the South. The Meer was excavated from marshy ground and completed in 1868, fed by underground springs and designed with a naturalistic shoreline of coves and promontories. By day, it welcomes families, anglers, and birdwatchers. At night, it becomes a quiet sheet of moonlit glass, disturbed only by the occasional leap of a fish or the whisper of reeds in the breeze. You pause at the water's edge. The lamps along the path cast long reflections across the surface, and the skyline of Harlem glimmers beyond the trees. In the 19th century, this corner of the park served as a rustic escape for residents of the neighboring village of Harlem, then a semi-rural community of farms and country houses. Over the decades, the surrounding neighborhoods grew dense and vibrant, and the Meer has remained a meeting point for cultures and generations. Children still come to fish for bluegill and bass, following a tradition that dates back more than 100 years. To your right rises the Charles A. Dana Discovery Center, a graceful Victorian-style building that opened in 1993 as part of a major restoration of the Meer. Its wooden veranda and cupola glow warmly under the lights, a welcoming outpost for education and community programs. During the day, it hosts art workshops and nature walks. At night, it becomes a silent sentinel, watching over the lake. You follow the curving path around the shore, passing clusters of willows whose long branches trail the water like dark green veils. The breeze carries the cool scent of wet earth and the faint sweetness of night-blooming flowers. Somewhere among the reeds, a night heron gives a low croak, and the sudden splash of a turtle breaks the surface before fading back into stillness. Beyond the Meer, the park's northern boundary is marked by a stone wall built in the 1860s. Just outside lies Harlem itself, a neighborhood rich with history and culture. During the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s, this area pulsed with music, art, and poetry that shaped American culture. The echoes of jazz and blues seem to linger even now, blending in imagination with the quiet night sounds of the park. You find a rustic bench near a small peninsula and sit for a moment. Across the water, the moon hangs low, its reflection forming a silver path that trembles with each breath of wind. The city beyond feels both close and far, a hum of life softened by the park's embrace. Olmsted believed that every district of New York deserved access to open space, and the Harlem Meer remains a testament to that democratic ideal, offering a serene landscape to the neighborhoods of the north. To the west, the faint outlines of the Lasker Rink and Pool appear through the trees. Built in 1966, this facility serves as an ice rink in winter and a swimming pool in summer, a modern addition to the park's long tradition of recreation. Plans are underway to renovate and reimagine the space, ensuring that future generations can continue to enjoy this blend of nature and community. You rise and begin to circle back, the path leading you toward the western edge of the park. The scent of fresh water fades into the earthy aroma of pine needles and moss, Above, stars scatter across the sky, their light softened by the thin veil of urban haze. The night is deep now, the park nearly empty, yet it feels alive with quiet movement. The rustle of a raccoon in the undergrowth, the distant call of an owl, the gentle lap of water against stone. As you walk, you reflect on the long arc of history contained within these acres. From the Dutch settlers who gave the Meer its name to the immigrant laborers who dug its basin, from the artists of the Harlem Renaissance to the countless visitors who find peace along its shores, this corner of Central Park holds stories as deep as the night itself. And as the moon glides westward, you follow the winding path south, the stillness of the Harlem Meer lingering like a calm heartbeat in your memory. Leaving the quiet shimmer of the Harlem Meer, you follow a curving path west and slightly south. The night air is cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of pine needles and fresh water from the stream that flows out of the loch. The trail climbs gradually, and soon the sound of the city begins to return, a soft vibration beneath your feet, the distant rumble of a late train, the low thrum of traffic on nearby avenues. You emerge from the trees onto the northern rim of the Great Lawn, that immense emerald expanse you glimpsed earlier from Belvedere Castle. Now, beneath a higher moon, the meadow stretches wide and empty. Dew sparkles across the grass like a field of tiny stars. The Great Lawn is one of the most democratic spaces in New York, a place where children play baseball in the afternoon, where sunbathers gather on summer days, and where tens of thousands once gathered to hear Simon and Garfunkel, Diana Ross, or the New York Philharmonic in free outdoor concerts. Tonight it rests in near silence, a vast breathing space in the center of Manhattan. The path skirts the lawn's western edge, passing low benches and clusters of trees. American elms arch overhead, their trunks twisting like quiet sentinels. These elms are among the largest surviving stands in the world, spared from the ravages of Dutch elm disease that destroyed so many elsewhere in the 20th century. Central Park's careful arborists monitor them constantly, pruning and treating to ensure their continued survival. Their high canopy creates a natural acoustic chamber. On a windy day, the sound of their leaves can rise to a soft roar, but tonight only a faint whisper stirs the branches. Beyond the lawn, you approach the Great Hill, a gentle rise that offers a view of the park's western boundary. This area once formed part of the village of Seneca, a 19th century community of free African-American landowners and Irish immigrants displaced when the city claimed the land for the park. Archaeological digs have uncovered foundations of their homes and traces of daily life. Pottery shards, buttons, small tools. Quiet reminders of the people who once lived and dreamed here long before the paths were laid. From the top of the Great Hill, you can see the Hudson River faintly gleaming to the west. Across the water, the Palisades rise, dark silhouettes against the starry sky. In the 19th century, Olmsted hoped that visitors might stand here and feel the same grandeur he had felt in the Adirondacks. Even with the lights of Morningside Heights below, the night carries a trace of that original vision, an unbroken horizon and the slow eternal rhythm of the river beyond. As you continue south, the path winds toward the western edge of the park near 103rd Street. Here you encounter the Blockhouse, a small square stone fort built in 1814 during the War of 1812, decades before the park itself existed. It was part of a line of defenses intended to protect the city from a possible British invasion that never came. The Blockhouse has no roof and no door now, only thick gray walls and the open sky, but it remains the oldest surviving structure in Central Park, a fragment of military history nestled within a landscape of peace. The night is deep now. Overhead, stars pierce the city's glow, while the moon casts long shadows across the path. You pass beneath black locusts and hickories, their trunks rough against the silver light. Occasionally, a breeze carries the faint scent of the Hudson, a reminder of the wide river flowing just beyond the park's stone boundary. Approaching the 96th Street transverse, you hear the subdued rush of occasional traffic crossing east to west beneath the park. Engineers built these sunken roadways in the 19th century so that carriages and later automobiles could pass without disturbing the pastoral illusion above. The bridges you cross, stone arches carefully fitted from Manhattan schist, were designed to hide the city's infrastructure from view, a triumph of both utility and beauty. Turning slightly east, you enter a quieter grove where the sounds of the city recede again. The path dips gently toward a small open meadow, and here you pause to look south. The distant silhouettes of midtown skyscrapers shimmer like a constellation of glass and steel. They remind you that beyond this island of green, life continues at its relentless pace. Yet here in the park, time seems to slow. You take a long breath of cool night air. The scents of cheese, damp earth, and faint autumn leaves mingle into a fragrance uniquely Central Park. In this moment, the boundary between city and nature blurs. The urban skyline and the dark trees share the same moonlight, the same quiet breeze. With each step, you feel the day's weight fade further, replaced by the calm that Olmsted and Vaux dreamed of when they first imagined a great democratic refuge in the heart of New York. From the quiet meadow near 96th Street, you follow a gently descending path, moonlight glinting off patches of dew. The western trees frame your view like a long, dark colonnade. Ahead, you hear the faint lap of water against stone, a soft rhythm that grows clearer with each step. Soon the landscape opens to a wide expanse of shimmering silver, the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. At 106 acres and over 40 feet deep, the reservoir is Central Park's largest body of water, a vast oval nearly a mile and a half in circumference. Built between 1858 and 1864 as part of New York's Croton Aqueduct system, it once held more than 1 billion gallons of fresh water to help meet the city's growing needs. Massive granite gatehouses on the east and west sides controlled the flow, and some of the original iron valves remain hidden beneath the grass today. Though the reservoir was removed from the active water supply in the 1990s, it continues to play a quiet role in the city's ecology. Fed by underground springs and rainfall, it provides habitat for countless fish and serves as a critical rest stop for migratory birds. In spring and autumn, watchers gather at dawn to spot northern shovelers, ruddy ducks, coots, and even the occasional rare loon gliding across the surface. In 1994, the city renamed the reservoir in honor of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, who lived nearby and was often seen jogging the encircling path. Her love of the park and her advocacy for historic preservation helped protect New York's architectural treasures, including Grand Central Terminal. Tonight under the moon, her namesake water gleams like a piece of sky fallen to earth. You step onto the cinder track that circles the reservoir, its soft surface perfect for running. By day, hundreds of joggers and walkers orbit this great pool, each lap just over 1.58 miles. At night, the track becomes a quiet promenade. Lamps line the railing, their reflections stretching as twin rows across the dark water. To the east, Fifth Avenue's grand apartment houses glitter like a necklace of light. To the west, the twin towers of the El Dorado and the San Remo rise in dignified silence, their Art Deco crowns sharp against the stars. The gentle crunch of gravel beneath your feet mixes with the faint rustle of wind off the water, a soundscape at once urban and timeless. You pause at the stone balustrade, one of several viewing platforms designed in the 1860s. Leaning against the cool granite, you watch the moon's reflection ripple across the immense pool. A breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of fresh water and the mineral tang of Manhattan schist. Beneath the surface, sunfish and carp move unseen. Overhead, a late migrating heron passes, its wings a dark silhouette against the glowing sky. The stillness is profound yet alive, a quiet breathing that belongs to water and night. Continuing south along the western path, you pass under tall London plane trees whose mottled bark glows pale in the lamplight. These hybrids of American sycamore and oriental plane were a favorite of 19th century landscape designers for their strength and tolerance of city air. Many of these specimens are more than a century old, their broad limbs creating a cathedral-like canopy that muffles sound and casts a shifting pattern of silver and black across the path. Soon you reach the bridle path, a wide, sandy trail once reserved for horseback riders. In the late 1800s, elegant equestrians trotted here from private stables on the Upper West Side, their horses' hooves drumming a steady beat. Newspapers of the era described the evening carriage and equestrian parade, a social ritual as essential as the opera or the theater. Today, the path welcomes runners and walkers, but if you close your eyes, you can almost hear the echo of those long-ago rides. The city's murmur grows a little louder as you near the 86th Street transverse. From here, a sunken road carries traffic east to west beneath the park. Olmsted and Vaux insisted that these transverses remain hidden from view so that the pastoral illusion would never be broken. The bridges you cross, stone arches fitted from Manhattan schist, are masterpieces of subtle engineering, blending seamlessly with the surrounding rock so that carriages above and vehicles below move without disturbing the quiet of the landscape. South of the transverse, the reservoir's waters gradually disappear behind the screens of trees. You catch occasional glimpses of the great lawn to your left, where the open meadow lies dark and silent. To the right, the silver sheen of water lingers until finally the path bends away and the last reflections fade. Now the terrain dips gently toward the mid-park landscapes. Mist rises from the grass and the night air cools. The scents change too, a hint of damp oak leaves, the sweet trace of honeysuckle still clinging to late summer vines. Overhead, the silhouettes of black locusts and American elms weave together, their branches forming a lattice that filters moonlight into scattered coins of silver. Here the designers intended a series of subtle transitions, from wide-open water to enclosed woodland, from the grandeur of the reservoir to the intimacy of winding paths. Even in darkness, the effect is clear. Each step carries you deeper into calm, through scenery that feels untouched by human hands, yet was shaped with infinite care. You pause beside a rustic bench, listening to the quiet heartbeat of the park. To the south, the faint outlines of Midtown's tallest towers shimmer against the horizon, their reflections dancing on the edges of the lake you have left behind. The contrast is striking, the restless city beyond, the deep quiet of the park within. It is the very balance Olmsted and Vaux imagined, a place where anyone at any hour could find stillness amid the endless motion of New York. With one last glance at the moonlit water, you continue south, your footsteps blending with the soft whisper of wind in the trees, carrying you toward the final stretches of your midnight journey. Leaving the quiet shadows near the reservoir, you continue south along a gently meandering path. The gravel crunches softly underfoot as you enter a grove of black cherry and American elm. The air here is cooler, tinged with the faint scent of damp stone and fallen leaves. Overhead, the moon has climbed higher, casting sharp silhouettes of branches across the path. Soon you come upon the 79th Street Transverse, another of the park's sunken roadways that carries traffic east to west without disturbing the peaceful landscape above. The bridge you cross is built from Manhattan schist, its keystone arch fitting seamlessly into the natural rock outcrops. Olmsted and Vaux insisted that these crossings remain nearly invisible, and even now it feels as if you've stumbled upon a natural corridor rather than a piece of infrastructure. From this vantage point, you can glimpse the faint lights of the Upper West Side peeking through the trees, a reminder of the city's pulse just beyond. South of the transverse, the terrain opens into rolling lawns bordered by stately oaks. To your right, just beyond the trees, lies the famed American Museum of Natural History. Though the museum itself stands outside the park, its presence is felt here. At night, the massive building looms like a shadowed fortress of knowledge. Founded in 1869, it houses one of the world's great collections of fossils and artifacts, from towering dinosaur skeletons to meteorites older than Earth's oldest rocks. Its grand facade faces the park like a silent guardian of science and exploration. Your path bends eastward, guiding you toward the middle of the park and the shimmering waters of the lake. This is the same lake you first encountered near Bow Bridge hours ago, but from this approach, its curves and coves reveal a different character. By day, rowboats glide across its 42 acres, their oars slicing gentle arcs through the water. Tonight it lies still, mirroring the silver stars overhead and the faint glow of lamplight along its shores. The lake was carefully engineered in the 1850s, its shoreline excavated and shaped to mimic a natural glacial basin. Hidden pipes ensure a steady water level, an invisible design that preserves the illusion of wilderness. The scent of wet earth rises stronger as you near the water's edge. You pause at a rustic overlook where a low wooden railing frames a view of the lake and the dark silhouette of the ramble beyond. Frogs croak softly in the reeds, and a night breeze carries the distant trill of a late singing cricket. This area is a haven for wildlife. More than 200 bird species have been documented around the lake, from tiny warblers to majestic herons. In winter, when the water sometimes freezes, Migratory ducks cluster in the remaining open patches, a testament to the lake's importance in the urban ecosystem. Continuing south, you follow a path towards Strawberry Fields, the tranquil memorial dedicated to John Lennon. This 2.5-acre garden was created in 1985 in cooperation with Yoko Ono and designated as a Garden of Peace by more than 120 countries. By day, visitors gather around the circular mosaic at its center, inlaid with the single word "Imagine," to play music and leave flowers. Tonight, the spot is quiet, the mosaic faintly visible in the moonlight. The gentle rustle of sycamore leaves overhead seems almost like a soft hymn, a fitting tribute to the musician who envisioned a world united by peace. Along the edge of the garden, plaques bear the names of the countries that endorse this sanctuary. Sanctuary, each one a silent promise of hope. A few steps further south, you catch glimpses of the Dakota building beyond the park wall, where Lennon lived and where his life was tragically cut short in 1980. Its steep gables and ornate stonework stand in quiet silhouette against the nightscape. Designed by architect Henry J. Hardenberg and completed in 1884, the Dakota has housed generations of artists and luminaries. Its presence here deepens the sense of history and loss that hangs gently over Strawberry Fields. The path leads you deeper into mid-park landscapes shaped with deliberate grace. Rock outcrops of ancient schist rise beside gentle lawns. Lanterns illuminate the way, their warm glow reflecting on patches of damp granite. Olmsted believed that these sudden contrasts, rugged rock next to smooth meadow, would stir the imagination and refresh the spirit. Even at night, his vision holds true. The city seems distant, the mind at ease. You can almost sense the thousands of workers who once blasted and hauled these stones, their labor transforming rough terrain into a dreamlike landscape. You slow your pace as you near the western shore of the lake, where the Bow Bridge arches once again in the distance. Its cast iron railings gleam under the moon, a familiar landmark you have now approached from another angle, completing a quiet circuit of Central Park's core. During the day, artists set up easels nearby to capture its elegant curve, and couples pose for photographs, adding new memories to its long history. The saxophone you heard earlier is gone. In its place, only the whisper of water against stone and the occasional rustle of a late sailing breeze. Standing here, you realize how far you've traveled. From the bustling edges of Midtown to the secluded woods of the north, from moonlit reservoirs to this peaceful heart of the park. Central Park at night is not a single scene, but a tapestry of many, each section with its own history, its own mood, all bound together by the enduring vision of those who carved a sanctuary from Manhattan's wild rock and earth. You linger a while longer, savoring the mingled scents of lake water and autumn leaves. The city glitters just beyond the tree line, but here time stretches, unhurried. When at last you continue, the path ahead leads toward the southern landscapes, where the final chapters of this nighttime journey await. You leave the quiet glimmer of the lake behind and continue south along a winding path. The night has grown cooler, and a faint mist clings to the low ground. Lamps cast pale circles on the gravel, guiding you toward the park's final stretches. Overhead, the moonlight filters through branches of black locust and red oak, their silhouettes etched against the sky like dark lace. Each step carries the muffled scent of damp leaves and stone, a fragrance that feels timeless, as though it has belonged to this place since long before the city grew around it. Soon you reach the gentle slopes of the Sheep Meadow, one of Central Park's most beloved open lawns. At 15 acres, it is smaller than the Great Lawn, but no less grand, a broad green expanse bordered by towering American elms. In the park's early decades, this meadow actually housed a flock of South Downs sheep, grazing peacefully until 1934, when Parks Commissioner Robert Moses relocated them to Prospect Park in Brooklyn. Their presence was more than pastoral charm. Olmsted and Vaux intended them to keep the grass naturally trimmed, a living maintenance crew for the Great Meadow. Their former sheepfold, a handsome Victorian structure designed by Jacob Graymold, was converted into the Tavern on the Green restaurant, which still welcomes diners at the park's edge. When it opened as a restaurant in 1934, its twinkling lights and crystal chandeliers made it an instant New York institution. Tonight, the meadow lies quiet and dew-covered, but by day, it is a lively canvas of picnickers, sunbathers, and kite flyers. During the 1960s and 70s, it hosted massive gatherings, from anti-war demonstrations to impromptu concerts by folk singers and rock bands. The Great Lawn may host orchestras, but the Sheep Meadow has long been the people's stage. From here you have one of the finest views of Manhattan's southern skyline. Even now, the towers of Central Park South gleam like a distant constellation, their reflections faintly mirrored in the moisture of the grass. You pause to take in the contrast, the soft, endless meadow before you, and the sharp geometry of skyscrapers beyond. Continuing eastward, you pass near the Carousel. Built in 1908 and brought to the park in 1951, it is one of the largest merry-go-rounds in the country, with 57 hand-carved horses and 2 ornate chariots. The current carousel is actually the 4th to occupy this site. Earlier versions date back to 1871. The first was powered by a team of real horses hidden beneath the platform, walking in quiet circles to turn the mechanism, a curious blend of nature and technology. By daylight, its calliope music drifts across the lawns, but tonight it rests in silence, its brightly painted steeds frozen mid-stride beneath the round domed roof. The moonlight picks out flecks of gold leaf in the glossy sheen of painted saddles, giving the impression that the ride is merely waiting for the morning to awaken. The path bends toward the mall once again, bringing you back to the majestic American elms you encountered earlier in the evening. Their branches arch high overhead, forming a grand promenade sometimes called the Cathedral of Trees. This is the only formal straight line in the entire park, designed to create a sense of theatrical arrival at Bethesda Terrace. Even late at night, a few quiet visitors linger here, their silhouettes softened by the amber glow of the lamps. Water from the fountain falls in a steady whisper, the same gentle sound you heard hours ago when the night was young. To the west, you catch a glimpse of the Dairy, a charming Gothic revival cottage built in 1870 to serve fresh milk and snacks to 19th century children and their parents. A reminder that the park was always intended as a family refuge. Today it houses a visitor center and gift shop, but at this hour it stands closed and silent, its pointed windows gleaming faintly in the moonlight. The carved wooden trim along the eaves, inspired by rural Swiss chalets, seems to belong to another century. You continue southward toward the final lawns of the park. The landscape grows narrower, the city's skyline pressing closer on both sides. Yet the designers managed to preserve small pockets of woodland and gentle curves of path that soften the approach to the bustling avenues beyond. You pass the Chess and Checkers House, a rustic pavilion built in 1952, where day visitors challenge one another at outdoor tables. Tournaments and quiet duels of strategy unfold here under the sun. Tonight the boards are empty, the pieces packed away, and only the rustle of leaves remains. Ahead lies the pond, a quiet mirror of water at the park's southeast corner. Tucked just steps from the roar of Fifth Avenue, it feels like a final hidden sanctuary. Here the sound of traffic is softened to a hum, and the reflections of city lights ripple across the surface. Ducks and night herons sometimes glide silently across the pond, their movements leaving gentle wakes that catch the moonlight. The pond is fed by a hidden stream and surrounded by plantings of rhododendron and mountain laurel, designed to bloom in succession from early spring to late summer, ensuring color through much of the year. As you stand at the water's edge, the Plaza Hotel rises beyond the trees, its French Renaissance facade glowing softly against the dark sky. Opened in 1907 and designed by Henry Janeway Hardenberg, the Plaza has been a symbol of Manhattan elegance for more than a century, hosting dignitaries, artists, and countless weddings. From this vantage, you can see both the timeless quiet of the pond and the vibrant city beyond. Olmsted's dream of balance between nature and metropolis perfectly realized. You linger, savoring the mingled sense of damp earth and faint perfume drifting from nearby gardens. Behind you, the paths of Central Park stretch northward, carrying the memory of every step. The secluded ramble, the lofty Bow Bridge, the moonlit reservoir, the vast meadows and ancient rocks. Ahead lies Fifth Avenue, bright and unyielding. But for now, you remain in the gentle borderland between city and sanctuary. This final pause allows you to feel how the park, even at its edge, softens the noise of the metropolis and offers a last breath of calm before you return to the restless streets beyond. You linger at the pond a moment longer, watching faint ripples stretch toward the reeds. A soft breeze drifts across the water, carrying the mixed scents of wet earth and distant flowers. Above, the plaza's lights shimmer like a distant lighthouse, reminding you that the restless city waits just beyond the trees. But for now, the park still holds you, a final pocket of quiet before the night surrenders to dawn. The path curves westward toward Gapstow Bridge, a graceful arch of schist and granite built in 1896. Its simple stone span is one of the park's most photographed views, framing the skyline of Central Park South with serene water beneath. You pause at the top of the bridge to take in the reflection. Towers of glass and steel shimmer upside down in the pond, their lights quivering as a duck paddles silently through. In spring, cherry blossoms drape the banks in pink clouds. In winter, skaters glide across nearby Woolman Rink. Tonight, only the sound of your own breath and the faint murmur of the city accompany you. Beyond the bridge lies the Woolman Rink itself, a wide expanse of ice that has been a winter favorite since 1949. In summer, it transforms into a playground for children and a venue for concerts and events. Generations of New Yorkers have learned to skate here, circling the rink beneath the skyline while music drifts from hidden speakers. Tonight, the rink is quiet, its smooth surface catching the moonlight like polished marble. The surrounding trees form a dark frame, and the muted city glow beyond hints at the busy avenues just outside the park's boundary. Continuing south, you follow a winding path through the Hallett Nature Sanctuary. For decades, this 4-acre woodland was closed to the public, left wild as a bird refuge. It reopened in 2016 with carefully restored trails, and even at night, its thickets of native shrubs and towering oaks feel like a small forest clinging to the edge of Manhattan. Crickets sing from the undergrowth, and somewhere a raccoon rustles through the leaves, indifferent to the skyline beyond. The sanctuary's quiet presence is a reminder that even in a city of millions, pockets of wilderness endure when given the chance. The lights ahead grow brighter as you near the park's Columbus Circle entrance at 59th Street. Here, the traffic hum of 8th Avenue swells, a steady reminder that the world beyond is fully awake. Yet even in this final stretch, the designers left room for beauty. Broad lawns dotted with honey locust trees, stone balustrades that catch the moonlight, and benches placed for a last, lingering rest. A bronze statue of Christopher Columbus stands at the circle's center, encircled by fountains and rushing taxis, a 19th century monument now seen through modern eyes. It is a striking transition, from the quiet of the park to the ceaseless motion of the city in a matter of steps. To the east, the Grand Army Plaza Gate opens toward 5th Avenue. Bronze eagles perch atop granite piers, their wings spread wide in welcome and farewell. Nearby, the gilded statue of General William Tecumseh Sherman catches the moonlight, its golden surface glowing as if lit from within. Beyond them, the famed avenue stretches south, alive with the glow of late-night taxis and the soft rumble of buses. Shoppers and theatergoers pass beneath glittering windows, unaware of the tranquil realm just a few steps away. You stop one last time at the park's edge and look back. Behind you lie 843 acres of crafted wilderness, the Ramble's twisting paths, the lofty arch of Bow Bridge, the moonlit expanse of the reservoir, the sweeping meadows and ancient outcrops of Manhattan schist. Each landmark holds a story of patient design and human hope, of a city that believed nature could heal and inspire, even in the heart of the busiest metropolis on Earth. As you stand there, you think of the countless workers, stonecutters, gardeners, engineers, whose skill and effort shaped this space more than 160 years ago. Their work endures, a living monument to vision and perseverance. The night air is cool against your face. Somewhere far to the north, an owl calls once, a soft echo of the wild that still lives within these borders. You breathe deeply, letting the quiet settle through you. Central Park has revealed itself as more than a refuge of trees and water. It is a living promise, a place where city and nature meet, where every visitor can find a moment of peace. With a final step, you cross the stone threshold back into the city. The sounds of traffic rise, lights brighten, and the spell of solitude begins to fade. Yet as you walk away, you carry the park within you. The shimmer of moonlight on still water, the whisper of leaves in the night, and the enduring sense that amid all the movement of New York, there will always be a place to return, to breathe, and to dream.